Okay, we actually have some topics today. We came prepared on this episode of the Double D Experience.
Maybe
for the first time.
Maybe like a bit more prepared than how we were like yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, last week.
We will keep the tower afloat for now. It is still leaning, but now it's a little straighter today. We'll see how far it leans towards the end.
It might go lean left, it might lean right, it might be conservative, it might be liberal. We have no idea, but we shall see.
Have you ever had a girl
by the end of this hour, we shall see.
Have you ever had a girl ask you which way your dick leans?
I have not.
Neither have I.
Although, you know, after probably being a great peruser of porn for a good chunk of my life, and seeing how some dudes' dicks like either lean like or get bent in a certain way and everything, I'm just kind of like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, it's just weird to see. Like,
what is the science of dicks? Can a dick, like, actually naturally curve?
I guess so. Because it's like, we've seen it in porn, in the porn.
Yeah, but I mean, they fake their genitals.
No, not all of them.
So, yeah, some of them do.
Not Johnny Sins, though.
Dude, yes, but the ones with, like, the perfect cocks that are, like, designed to, like, scrape all the way towards the back and on the roof of the fucking pussy.
The meat
like,
sword.
Yeah,
it looks like a sword.
Dude.
Maybe for black dudes, I guess they just don't need it because it's like they're already packing. So it's like, why would I need, like, a sleeve for my cock? It's like, it is the sleeve.
Dude, I'm just saying, like, to not only have a dick that's, like, womb-reaching length, but also beyond the fact that it's also, the curvature is just perfect to the point where, like, the tip of it will scrape against specifically the top, which not only will hit the G-spot, but also just the fucking, reach all the way back at the same time. That perfect curvature of cock, is that a product of, like, pornography, or is, like, some guys' dicks naturally lean? Because I don't know too much about the science of it. Like, I know this sounds dumb, but as for a boner, is it called a boner because it's a literal bone?
I thought
how does a dick work, like, when it goes from flaccid to hard? Because, like,
you mean like the shape that it has, like, when it's hard?
Yeah, because, like, if you got a flaccid, like, cock, right?
Yeah.
You got a flaccid, dangly dickity dick. It's like you squeeze it, and it's like, well, that's just nice and squishy. That don't feel like there's no bone in there.
And then you see a pair of booba. And it's just kind of like...
And then you see booba, and you get hard, and it's like, see, now that feels proper. Now that feels like there's a proper bone in there. But it's not like a bone structure, right? Like you have in, like, your arm, or like a rib cage or something like that. That's not how it works, right?
No, it's mostly a lot of, like, kind of muscle down there. From what I
that
remember.
Muscle.
Yeah.
Holy shit,
like
how did
muscle,
I not...
Like, I was gonna say muscle, like muscle and tissue, like, you know, just a lot of that. And
yeah.
Just kind of like the way that we're biologically made, it's kind of like, and this is where also genetics may play a part, where it's like, hey, you get a boner like everyone else, right? But, you know, your boner, like, not all boners are created equal, or it's gonna be like, you know, sometimes your dick is just gonna curve any which way, or it might, like, kind of arch up a bit.
Yeah.
I've seen that. And that,
Well,
I was gonna say, now taken out of context, that sounds pretty gay, but but it's just mostly the porn that I watch. You've seen the dude's dick. Like, it's sometimes it's just kind of weirdly bent in some fucking northerly direction, and you just kind of like go, what? That happens? I don't know. That's just me. Like, I find it weird. Like,
so it's not, yeah, I know that sounds so stupid, but, like, because I agree with what you're saying as far as, like, the curvature goes. I don't know if that's just a porn thing, or some guys, like, literally just have, like, cocks that can bend the right way. I mean, mine can bend if you shape it properly, but I realized, how could it bend like that if it's a literal bone? And my fucking dumbass didn't realize, like, okay, David, what if something of your body is not structured by a bone, what's the other thing that helps keep it intact?
You were not good at biology, were you?
No, I got the fucking firmest pair of double D's in both of my Bergen college classes that I had to take. When, like, for my GE, my general studies major, I got D's in both of that shit. And I was trying in those fucking classes, man. I was so bad. Science was above and beyond my worst subject. and I couldn't think of muscle for some reason. But like, why
muscle
is it called
and tissue?
Muscle and tissue? Yes, but then like, why is it called a boner then?
Oh, it's just like a colloquial term. Like, it's just as stiff as a bone. Like, kind of like that, you know? Like, you shouldn't, don't think about it too much.
But it's made of muscle.
Yeah, but like, you know,
it should be called a swoller.
Fuck. I don't know. We have like...
Because it can also be analogous in the way that it swells up when you see big booba and big cheeks. Like,
we also like have plenty of terms like for our boners that's not just boner. And
you're like, where the fuck did cock come from?
Maybe someone just saw like a chicken and they were already called cocks back then, so it was just kind of like cock. Some guy just put 2 and 2 together and just thought like, I'm a genius, and he started saying cock everywhere he went, and then somehow it just caught on. But you know, I like to think even like the guys who he said it to probably found him really annoying, probably punched him in the face.
Maybe they found him even more annoying because maybe it goes even darker. Maybe he saw a chicken.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, and he beat the cock? Is that what it is?
Maybe he saw a chicken, became aroused, got very worried.
I don't know, you see a chicken's ass, it's pretty plump, not gonna lie.
It is pretty big, but like there's feathers all over it, and it's also not a fucking human. So... and I don't normally get aroused when seeing that, but I'm saying maybe the guy who coined the term just happened to have a boner or something when he saw a chicken. He lived on a farm or whatever. He was just he was fucking his girl out in the sticks, and
or fucking a chicken,
or fucking a chicken.
The chicken was his girlfriend.
Fuck me hard, chicken sandwich. Oh yeah.
Well, all you hear
my
the chicken.
mind's telling me no. But my body is telling me yes.
And all you hear the chicken is going.
I don't know where the fucking term for cock comes from. That is so weird.
I don't know either. Like,
pussy for a woman makes sense at least because they were always analogous with like dogs chasing cats, and it's like okay, men are dogs, women are cats, like men chasing women. Like that one's kind of obvious, but like. Cock.
It depends on the context. It depends on the context too. Because if we just kind of say it like just in conversation, it's like, yeah, man, my cock is huge. It's like, but like when a girl is like real hot and bothered and she wet, and then she says, "Give me your cock, daddy," is different. That's all I'm saying. It's different. The context is important here. Like it sounds different, doesn't it? You hear that out of context with the girl. It's like, "Give me your cock, daddy." It's just like, you know, it's different. You hear a guy talking about his cock, like just kind of like in conversation, just kind of like, "Okay, bro," like that's cool.
A hard K sound hits different. It can sound more sexual because it's hard. That's why you say fuck. Beyond the definition, like why you say fuck me hard, like that's why you say fuck so much. Like it's an arousing word because of how it hits. Like cabbage. See, you laughed at that. Why? Because cabbage is funny. Now watch me be like lettuce. Lettuce is not as funny of a word because it's like way easier off the tongue. So so in that way, saying cock for dick makes sense. But still, like, to make it analogous with a fucking chicken, like, where did that come from? Like, that, like, I want to know the origins of that. It doesn't make any sense.
Cock-a-doodle-doo, which is, like, the sound that, you know, people believe chickens make, where it's like, you know, because it's like, oh, like, cock-a-doodle-doo, the cow says moo, or some, I don't even know.
Actually, roosters make that sound, not chickens.
Fair. Didn't know you were so well-versed in your barn animals.
Well, I'm just saying that could be another reason, because the roosters are, like, what get you to rise in the morning, so maybe, it, like, they thought, like, okay, rising, you know what rises when you're horny? Your dick. So, like...
We literally went on 10 minutes about this.
I wanted to keep talking about it. I wanted to fill it in at least a 10-minute. I wanted to fill it in a 10-minute timestamp because I was very curious about the science of dicks. I'm like, it is not a bone, so it must be muscle.
We're talking about. It's like the etymology of like, where did the word cock come from?
Well, speaking of dicks, The casting choice for Johnny Cage in the new Mortal Kombat movie. There's a lot of new Mortal Kombat news, actually. The new game just got announced at the time that this episode goes up.
Didn't they just have a game like last year?
No, it dropped in... The last Mortal Kombat dropped in like 2018.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, MK11 came out in like 5 years ago already, straight up.
Feels like literally last week they just had a release.
Well, no, here's the thing, because the movie came out. The movie came out like a year or two ago, and they have like a bunch of like animated movies now that they do with Warner Brothers, like in the DC style.
Yeah.
And shit. And those are actually really, really good from what I've heard. But
were you a big Mortal Kombat fan?
I love Mortal Kombat. I think it's sick. I was never a competitive player or anything, but like I think it has the best story out of like any fighting game, to be honest. The lore goes fucking nuts. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is true.
The characters are so cool, all the different creatures, the politics of it, the fashion. I love it all. And just very, very creative series when you get down to the nitty-gritty. And here's the thing. The reason I actually didn't see the first Mortal Kombat movie.
The one from like the 90s, I think?
No, not that one. That one is that one is notorious.
I know. Yeah, everyone knows it.
Yeah.
But even the Street Fighter movie that like the live action one that came out, nobody fucking ever said like, oh yeah, that was great. Like, you know, it was amazing.
No. There was a live action movie like a year or two ago.
Okay.
And I heard it was actually quite good. Like, surprisingly enough. I did not see it though, because there was one tidbit about that movie that I know. And that is that one of my top 5 video game characters of all time, Mr. Jonathan Cage, was not in that movie. He wasn't he wasn't in the first one. He is in the second one. They actually had a press release about announcing that Johnny Cage was in it, revealing who was playing him. And how much do you know about like Mortal Kombat or just Johnny Cage, period? I mean, he's not, from a surface level, you know, the douchey Hollywood actor. Really? you know, like the trope, basically?
Yeah, I know.
Then I want to know your opinion about this, because you actually watched this show and I didn't. Because you want to know who they cast as Johnny Cage?
Oh. I think I might have spoiled it for myself.
You spoiled it for yourself already? Yeah, Karl Urban.
Yeah, so,
they cast the Butcher as Johnny Cage.
Butcher from The Boys.
I'm like...
fuck. Sorry, my leg.
My leg.
My leg.
My leg.
Oh, but yeah, keep going.
Just keep rubbing it like that.
Yeah. It's like,
Give that leg a good old Robin. Give that leg a good old Robin, yes.
Robin?
Give that leg a good old Robin.
Oh, no, continue.
Robbing the seasonings. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And I didn't watch The Boys. I've seen clips of it. You know me. I'm the guy who's like, oh, I've seen bits and pieces of this thing. I never actually watched it, you know. But I know what The Boys is. Obviously, where like, you know, corporations like pretty much own superheroes, and they're all like a bunch of like either drug addicts or rapists or just not the people that they facade themselves as.
Yeah, they're terrible people. Just they're magnified terrible people because they have superpowers.
Exactly. And what do you think of Karl Urban in the role? Because he was not my first. Did you see the picture? I assume you just Googled it. Yeah, so like you could get the look down at least. Like, how tall is he? Like, I'm thinking like physically, like how isn't Johnny Cage supposed to be like mad tall?
Yeah, he's supposed to be like 6 foot something, right? He's like this classic like Hollywood macho looking kind of action star. Like,
this is what male perfection looks like. You may not like it, but this is like that sort of stereotypical like think Johnny Sins sort of, but like not bald and with a pinhead.
6'1". He is 6'1".
Johnny Cage is 6'1" or Karl Urban?
No, Karl Urban 6'1".
Okay, well that's tall enough, I guess. I suppose, yeah.
So would you want to know again? Like, what would you?
I wanted to know what you thought of the casting, because when I think of Karl Urban, you know who I thought he would be perfect as? Fucking Kano.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Right? I thought that would have been way better choice for Kano. I don't know if Kano was in the first Mortal Kombat movie. I didn't see it. Sorry, but like, I thought he would have been I mean, if they have a better actor as Kano, then that's great. But like, honestly, he looks more like Kano. He's already got the accents down, obviously. Like, he can get that going.
But Kano also looks like he could be played by... I really fucking like hate name dropping like Marvel stars, but it's like, I don't know. Hemsworth looks like he could play Kano like pretty all right.
Yeah, he could do it too. I can see that.
But it's like, that's the thing.
Whether he'd take a role like that though in a video game movie, that's the question.
But I feel as if now it's like, if this is made by Warner Brothers, then probably not, considering I know for that contract of his, it's just like, you ain't being part of anything DC related. And I think Mortal Kombat is kind of loosely DC related.
Mortal Kombat does everything with Warner Brothers. There's been like 3 or 4 like DC crossovers with Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, yeah.
There's Mortal Kombat, DC Universe, Spawn is in Spawn, and the Joker are both playable in Mortal Kombat 11. Like, they're both guest characters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
right.
Then there were the Injustice games, which is literally just the DC version of Mortal Kombat, which they make, and that has some Mortal Kombat guest characters in it. Like, yeah, like the worlds are actually like very closely related at this point. So
that's pretty cool, though. I like that, though.
No, I love it too. And like the Warner Brothers movies that they make, like in the DC animation style, like there's been like a couple of those movies that they made for Mortal Kombat, and they look really dope. Like it just works. It just works. It's very cool.
It's like Todd Howard's. It's like, it just works. It just works.
It just works. So yeah, like when I thought of Karl Urban, I mean, like I just wanted to know what you thought, because like I don't know. I'm not. He could definitely do it, but he was not. He just wasn't my first choice.
The thing is, okay. Some initial thoughts. He is definitely not anyone's first pick, but I personally think he can do it very well.
Yeah.
Because Karl, at least he's been able to prove himself from The Boys that like he could like essentially play like any role that he wants. Cause like a lot of times that I've kind of always seen him, he's always like kind of been in like low-key fantasy stuff. He was in Lord of the Rings, if anyone remembers. He was Éomer like during movies 2 and 3. And the thing is that I know he's been in other stuff after that, but it's been very like kind of just not on anyone's radar. It wasn't until The Boys that he essentially kind of rose to prominence again, and like people actually like kind of knew him like by name by that point. And if what I know of Johnny Cage is correct, and considering, at least in The Boys, and for anyone who has watched it, everyone knows that Butcher is, like, insufferably arrogant, cocky as a motherfucker, and, like, will just be shit-talking you as he's kicking you into the fucking ground. So, I think he could play Johnny Cage very well, because he plays off that attitude. He played off that attitude very well, at least as Butcher in The Boys. But I think now it's gonna be, like... I think with Johnny Cage is obviously a bit more comedic because like he's just like, you know,
just ignore it. It's a wedgie, all right.
It's getting a little sexual.
Oh, I'm rubbing my wire against the mic. I'm sorry.
But overall, I think he'll be. I don't think again. Just to re-summarize it again. I don't.
The way you described him, yeah.
Like he's not anyone's first choice for Johnny Cage. But he could play it well. I am confident in that, at the very least.
Didn't watch The Boys, but with the way you described him, that was Johnny Cage to a T.
Yeah.
So, if anything, that's actually perfect.
But this one's just going to be a little more comedic. Because like, Johnny Cage is kind of like, he's just a funny Hollywood, fast talking, like, hey, stupid, like, you can't keep me.
His famous move is that he punches you in the dick. like straight up, like the nut punch. It's one of the most iconic Mortal Kombat attacks. I didn't even think about that. I was so focused on typecasting Karl Urban based on what he looked like and based on what I knew of him. From
he's also a New Zealander, so he's got to play the American accent.
Exactly. That's why that crossed my mind. I'm like, oh fuck, he'd be perfect for Kano then, because he like plays like that kind of guy in fucking The Boys, and he already has the accent. Doesn't got to learn that, and he looks more like him. So that's why I thought it'd be good. But I guess that arrogance could. And also just shit-talking you while he's beating you into submission makes perfect sense, because that's literally what Johnny Cage does. And Cage just has, like, that kind of dialogue. Like, oh, page 62, Johnny Cage dies? Is someone high? Like, he's got, like, dialogue like that and stuff. So I guess that works. I wanted to know your thoughts on that. But, if anything, I hope it just opens up more crossovers for fucking Mortal Kombat and other things. Because Mortal Kombat guest characters go crazy. Like, Freddy Krueger was an MK9.
Oh, right, yeah.
MKX had fucking Jason Voorhees. It had Leatherface. A fucking alien xenomorph.
Oh.
Yeah, like alien xenomorph. One of the Predator. Well, I forgot.
I remember that.
The Predator was an MKX, which was a sick one. And then in MK11, I told you it already had the Joker and Spawn, which was crazy. And then it just went like action movie heroes for some reason. They put fucking RoboCop in it.
Oh yeah,
And then Rambo, like John Rambo.
yeah.
And
it looked like Rambo 2 instead of Rambo 1. He like was like a real shredded and cut up and stuff.
They wanted to know the lore. Yeah, they wanted to make sure it was at that end of the Rambo lore. And then fucking there's one more action star. I can't remember. Fuck.
I can't remember. Fuck.
Why can I not fucking remember? What the hell? Oh yeah, I forgot they put Kratos in it too. He was in the PS3. He was in the PS3 version, like the old Kratos, the one from the fucking
God of War's 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
The real angry one. Before he calmed down, became a dad.
Angry one.
Boy.
Boy. So the only reason I'm bringing that up is because you want to know who I think would actually be a fucking sick guest character for Mortal Kombat?
Well, the movie or like for the new game coming up?
The new game.
So 12, right?
Yeah, or 12 or whatever they're going to call it, because I don't think they're going to call it 12 with the way the teasers have been going. You know who I think would actually be a fucking sick guest character? Oh, the Terminator. I forgot. That was the other one. That was an MK11. The Terminator is in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
I was trying to remember the last action star.
I remember all these cameos. That's the thing. Like, it wasn't on my radar, but I knew it, though.
It's so funny, too, because Schwarzenegger did not voice him. And do you want to know why Schwarzenegger didn't do it?
Oh, why?
He didn't approve of the violence in the game.
Oh, my God.
Meanwhile, the fucker's movies
was all about violence.
You fucking seen Total Recall? He like rips people's arms off and shit in that movie.
Even that one scene, like, I mean, if you even watch like the first 2 Terminators, it's like, come on, man, like, you really about to say like, oh, I don't approve of the violence, motherfucker? You were literally punching through people's bodies.
Yeah, but it's a movie. It's a movie, though. You're not actually doing it. Whatever. All right, but anyway, I've gotten sidetracked. You want to know who would actually be a perfect guest character? And I didn't. Shoutouts to Ritual on Twitter for putting this idea into my head.
Who?
Homelander.
Oh my God! If they could get Anthony Starr himself to voice him, oh my God,
that would be so. That chef's kiss. That would be perfect.
They would have to definitely like hit up Amazon, just be like, hey, can we borrow him?
Can we borrow him?
I don't know how those negotiations work. It's like with the Hideo and plus even Sonic team, like, you know, asking like, oh, hey, can I, like, you know, can we put Sonic and Snake in Smash Brothers? Or, like, I don't know how it went. That's the thing. I don't know how the negotiation went, but it's like
it depends on the individual character, because getting Snake in was harder.
And like in this case, right? It's just kind of like Amazon's already like working on, you know, tons of stuff with Anthony Starr, like especially with the boys, like with their seasons, like, you know, I don't know when it's coming up, but I'm pretty sure they're working on it. And it's like, you know, now you guys are going to be coming up to us. Like, again, guys, this is all conjecture. We're not confirming nothing, but it would be sick if they fucking got Homelander fighting Scorpion, just like this fucking ripping his fucking head off like the way the real Homelander fucking would anyways.
Laser eye fatality.
Yeah.
Like right through. It's perfect. It's actually just perfect. And he's from like the most fucking violent show that I think might have ever been on television. So, or among them.
I don't know. The thing is, Amazon's like definitely got that. I think they definitely deserve that award if there was one, like most bloodiest shows, because there was The Boys and then Invincible. And Invincible, like,
but Invincible, like,
it.
Yeah, but Invincible was a cartoon.
Oh, okay, in that context. All right. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess, some scenes in Invincible go pretty fucking ham, but I mean, I guess, like, the thing with The Boys is that, like, it's supposed to be, like, edgy or whatever, because, like, there's, like, fucking compilations, like, most violent moments from season 1. It's, like, it's part of the show's identity at this point, that it kind of even put Game of Thrones to shame in that department.
Game of Thrones was so tame with the gore
compared to The Boys.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like
even I've seen like some of the scenes from the fucking Boys, like the scene where the fucking like Flash character runs through that bitch.
Oh yeah, it completely just annihilates her off the face of the planet,
and it was so unnecessary.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's all played up for like dramatic effect.
Yeah, it goes to show they're supposed to be like, oh, superheroes in real life would be kind of reckless, I guess, or whatever, blah blah blah. Like,
absolutely,
I get it.
They'd be reckless.
Like, I get it, but like, holy shit! Like, it was like, okay, we get it. Like, you got the fake blood money. Like, you had a lot of room in the budget for that shit.
Funny enough, too, like that death I think for me is the one that I always remember when I think of that show. Like a lot of the other ones that have come after that, like throughout the series, they were obviously gory, but that one was just kind of like, I think it really stuck with me because it was like the first episode. So that was the hook of the whole thing. Like, because at first, like, it all starts off pretty normal. Oh, guy goes out on date, is nice, and then literally he has girl. Now he don't because she's literally all over the place. And, like, she just exploded into a million pieces. And, like, just in the whole scene where he's, like, holding her hands. Like, those, like, he was still holding it. And it's all that remains of her afterwards. And, and like the scream that Huey has like at the end, and like, you know, if anyone's gonna like complain that, oh, spoilers for the boys, if you haven't watched it by now at this point, like, that's your fucking fault. I'm sorry, but like that whole scene, like, it still sticks with me because, like, at least, you know, whenever we watch like superhero movies, we always kind of like, you know, I don't know, the gore wasn't really like ever like a thing. Like there was like sometimes blood in the DC like kind of universe, and even in the animated series, like, you know, when Superman was punching like Darkseid, there was a little blood here and there, but like this was like something. At least for me, like,
the real violent shit was like the real violent shit was reserved for the comics. Like the scene where the Joker breaks Jason Todd's legs, like with the crowbar and shit like that, like stuff like that. Which,
or when Superman literally like punches through the Joker. It was like one of the
I remember
Injustice
that's one of the that's the Injustice one where like he kills Lois Lane or something like that, and then Superman just kills Joker in revenge or some shit and all that stuff. See, what I remember is when Soldier Boy shoves that Shoryuken through the guy's eye, and then like puts the bag over his head and just beats him with the shield. I was just sitting there looking at that. I was like, yeah, bro, that's
a little uncalled for. It's a little uncalled for, bro.
I think you got him. I think you got him. I think you got him, bro.
Yeah, I think he looks dead. Yeah, he looks pretty dead.
At least he had the decency to put a bag over his head before he did that shit, so he didn't have to see the shield coming. And so, Yeah. And it's funny, too, because I'm the complete opposite of Arnold Schwarzenegger in that way, where, like, he was uncomfortable voicing his own character that he birthed, basically, or, like, defined because of violence in video games. Yet you see his movies and you see how violent that shit is. I'm the complete opposite. I'm way more disturbed by violence in fucking movies and shit and TV shows. Like The Boys, where I'm, like, watching it, I'm like, all right, bro, that was so extra. Ew. Like, come on. But in Mortal Kombat, I don't give a fuck. Like nothing. I like this is me watching. This is me watching the fatalities. I'm just like, nothing. Like,
or if anything, you're just kind of like, oh my god, he cracked his skull and then he punched his nuts. Holy shit! Like.
And I don't know if it's because it looks faker because of it's a video game or something. Like, I don't know where that line gets drawn,
really odd.
You know?
The disconnect's really odd on that because I'm kind of the same way, I guess, when it comes to certain movies. But it's like, even for me, like, you know, when it came to The Boys and then even Invincible, after you saw like a couple gory parts, after that, I just kind of became desensitized to it because it's like, oh, he, like, you know, opened this dude's chest and, like, grabbed his entrails and, like, just straight up wrapped his fucking neck around it and then, like, you know, just swung him around like a lasso and just threw him onto the fucking wall. Like, you know, it's so weird.
You know what the show is.
No, exactly. Because it's like, they already established by episode 1 what kind of show this is. And this is not your typical, like, live action Ezra Miller Flash type of fucking, like, superhero show. Like, this shit is, like, balls to the wall. And it almost is... It would be almost a disservice for the show if it wasn't, too. So it's like, okay, I kind of get it. That, like, this is the route that they went. Because trying to be different in, like, a fucking... literal genre that is so fucking saturated to the point where, like, we've seen so many superhero shows that, like, we kind of already know what to expect. So at least in The Boys case, like, I understand why they did it, and I kind of do enjoy it for that reason, because it is, like, it's got its own identity compared to, like, a lot of other, like, kind of superhero-esque type shows. But, like, going back to the gore at least, and even, like, kind of seeing gore in video games to kind of, like, comparing it to, like, gore seen in movies. And, like, you know, we've seen, like, plenty of times in movies where people literally get their heads bashed in Literally, like, you know, that one scene everyone knows from Game of Thrones where, like, Oberyn, like, is fighting the mountain, and then he fucking gets his literal head, like, caved in because the guy literally smashed his fucking head in, like, through the eye sockets, if anyone remembers that scene. And, like, we've just seen, like, so much gratuitous violence. And I call it gratuitous because it's, like, you know, for certain shows, it's kind of like, the violence is never the identity of the show, or at least it shouldn't be. It should always just be supplemental to it, like kind of just like to get the point across of like what your type of show your show is. But in like, let's say for video
I don't
games,
like slasher films, you know, because like, it's just like torture porn.
When you see blood in slasher films and gore, you're just kind of like whatever. Like sometimes they get creative with it, like, you know. But
that's what I'm saying. Like anything else, if it's in your movie for no reason, it becomes like untasteful.
No,
like,
yeah,
and
exactly.
That's not even just a violence thing. Like anything else, like dialogue, unnecessary dialogue, or sex scenes. Like if it doesn't have like some sort of impact to the story. I'm just the same way with violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And I guess it's new for superheroes and shit. You know what I mean?
I suppose, but that's the thing. Like, you know, a lot of people who are like superhero fans, like now, at least like when that whole kind of genre and sort of franchise was really taking off by like, I think maybe in the early 90s, and like kind of because we got like all those DC animated shows, we got the Spider-Man animated show from Fox Kids. Like anyone who grew up around that time and watching those shows, it's like, you know, we thought like, oh like this is the shit. And then obviously we got more and more superhero movies as the years went on, and like they kind of pushed the boundaries a little bit with it. Like at least the early Michael Keaton Batman, like it was very kind of very, you know, it was very Tim Burton-esque because it was made by him, and like you definitely saw like Tim Burton's like influence like on it. And as like the more and more Batman movies like came out, even like, you know, we go into like the Dark Knight territory, and like the violence there, like I mean it was violent, but it was just kind of like, you know, like every time like Joker killed a dude, it was always like kind of off screen. Like the one scene when they bring him in a body bag to like the guy, and then he like has the knife to the guy's like, you know, mouth, and then you just kind of like hear the little movie sound effect like and like as like he like already, you know, cut his mouth, and he's like dead. And you know, like it's always kind of, you know, it's always just for implied sake, but like we all know what happens. And I guess where I'm going with this is that like, I don't know, movie violence for me is just like, you have to do some real crazy shit for me to even bat an eye. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, because it's like, at least for a movie's sake, like, you know how you said like for games, like we know like this is just a game, it's fantasy, yeah, like, you know, it's not real, like whatever. At the very least, like games don't look nearly as real as a movie. And like obviously for live action movies, like, you know, they are real or they look real. And like, you know, special effects is just like, it's kind of nuts, like with the amount of shit that they can like basically make, you know, in post. Especially even gore, like they could just turn up the gore if they want to, like just easily, and just like show like people's entrails and shit and all that. And like, yeah, just seeing that nowadays, I don't know, for me, maybe it's just because I'm old. Like even when I was young and I saw like Terminator 2, and then I saw like all the scenes with like Liquid Metal, like just like killing motherfuckers like nothing, and just like stabbing people like through the fucking forehead with his like little metal finger. Like even as a kid, I was just kind of like, like this unfazed. I don't know.
It wholly depends on how realistic it is, because like, I mean, as far as like the knife scene in the Dark Knight, I mean that might have been done because they wanted to keep like a PG-13 rating, like I mean, to get more people to see it and shit. Whereas, you know, the Joker movie was rated R because they wanted it to be edgier and more like a character study, which I guess makes sense. It also depends on how realistic it is, I suppose, because I saw The Menu, I saw that movie. And there's a scene where a dude offs himself. He puts a gun in his mouth and he shoots right through his head. And it's supposed to be like really disturbing because he just did it in front of a bunch of people, and it's supposed to like really help set the tone further for the movie and shit like that. That this is what this kind of movie's gonna be. But at the same time, no, it wasn't that scary because it looked fake. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing, you know, when somebody actually does that, when they put a gun in their mouth and like they shoot it through the top, it's a lot bloodier than that. Like a lot bloodier than that. I forgot what that congressman was that killed himself, like when he got caught like on corruption charges, right? this was many years ago in like the 90s or the 80s. There was a congressman or something who like got caught on corruption charges, and he literally brought and hid a gun inside of an envelope, and he killed himself like on the Senate floor, straight up, like in front of everybody.
Oh shit.
Yeah, this happened in like the 80s or some shit, and there's it was filmed. There's footage of it. Like it's very disturbing, like very disturbing shit. And to not just show you the footage, obviously.
Yeah.
When he did it, all the blood and matter that was in his head was gushing out of his nose because like there were the orifices in his face, and all that blood isn't circulating anymore, so it's got to like come out. That does not happen in the menu. Because it's a movie or whatever, and I guess that's part of what doesn't keep it disturbing. That shit, though, showed up on my Twitter feed once, and I was watching it, and I had to, like, like, I was like, double taking it, like, just looking at it in the corner of my eye, and shit, like, oh, God, I can't. Like, it was way more disturbing because I fucking knew it was real. You know what I mean? Yeah.
True.
I don't follow the person who retweeted that onto my timeline anymore. Very cringe. But, yeah. So my point is, it also depends on like how realistic it is on top of that, because in a lot of action movies, the deaths come very swiftly. Like this guy got shot in the head, it's real fast, it's already off camera, it's like a minute, like so fast paced. It's like a fucking WarioWare, like down, like you just like fast paced, like micro games basically. You only see it for a moment before your brain processes it. Whereas in like horror movies where it's so like focused and like fixated on like, you know, dragging it out as long as you can, like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies and shit like that, showing the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. It's different. You know, you saw a guy get shot in like real life or whatever. It's like that's terrifying or like traumatizing or whatever. But then you see like that happen. Like, you know how many fucking people John Wick kills and how many violent ways he does it?
Yeah.
But instead it's hype and it's exciting because of the way it's done. It has
Context
to do with, like,
is important though. That's what I mean.
Yeah, the context with how it's edited, with who they're killing as well, whether they're like innocent people or just like henchmen, like goons. That's another big part of it as well. You know. So that's part of the reason why The Boys is considered so edgy, because they kill so many innocent people in that show. Again, the girl that the fucking Flash character just runs through, she's just minding her own damn business, just some girl, and then she dies like that. Like, what the fuck, you know? Like, that's disturbing. It's different that way.
About disturbing.
And that's another reason that Mortal Kombat is not disturbing. I hate to cut you off. I think I just realized what it is, because it's happening to, like, warriors and ninjas and shit. So, like, it's not like...
Okay, yeah, so already the setting is like, okay, yeah, it's just like a bunch of guys in costumes, like, all killing each other. But there is one scene or kind of level from gaming that even I thought was pretty fucking disturbing. At least, like, it almost made me not want to play it, like, just flat out.
Really?
And it was the airports level from Call of Duty.
Oh,
no Russian.
Yeah.
And even for
that
me, I was
in
like...
the news for a while.
I was like, you know, my hand's on the trigger, and I'm just kind of like, but I don't want, like, I'm not really, but it's just kind of like, as a
but
kid,
I don't want to.
It's like, kill, no Russian. Kill no
Dude,
Russian.
what about, like, the Gen Zers who are listening to us who might not even they might not even know that shit. They weren't around for the Modern Warfare 2 ones.
What was it? Modern Warfare 2, right, I think?
Modern Warfare 2, it was the 4th mission in Modern Warfare 2. You're
really
playing
not
as,
much
like,
of a mission, considering it was a straight up, like, just shooting fish in a barrel, honestly.
It's like the most, the crazy part though is that it's like the most important level as far as the story goes in that game. Like, it's like huge implications. Basically, you're playing as like an undercover CIA agent, like a deep cover undercover CIA agent who's like right-hand man with like the main Russian bad guys thing now, right? And you're in an airport and the terrorist group just walks out of an elevator with a bunch of LMGs and just fires into it.
Lights the motherfucking airport up. Like,
opens like fire to like a crowd of people, and you're playing as the character who does that.
Yeah.
Which, even for its time, like, you think that's fucked up
nuts.
now.
It was actually
time,
fucking nuts.
I remember it circulated in the news for like a real long time. Like, that's what like sparked like, you know, the whole video game violence debate again, because like it gave the people who hate video games so much ammunition, like no pun intended, for no pun intended, because you're literally playing as a guy firing into a crowd of people. Before you do that mission, there was a literal warning. I don't remember that. Yeah, okay. There was an in-game warning, straight up. Like, this mission is kind of disturbing. Like, it has very violent content. You can choose to skip it, straight up, if you want to. And, like, which is crazy. Dude, it's also crazy, because I remember in the middle of 2020, they fucking remastered Modern Warfare 2.
Did they still have that mission?
Yeah! It was still in the game, dude.
No, they shouldn't have.
Again, it's like the most important mission story-wise.
They also shouldn't have taken it out, even amidst like the sort of cancel culture-y kind of climate that, 2020 still kind of was in. Like, I wouldn't even, I would have told him, like, no, don't remove it, because it's like, this is still like central, like it's very, like, it's pivotal to the whole fucking game's plot. So the reason you kind of have to have it in there.
Yeah, and the reason it's pivotal is because the character you're playing as gets found out by the terrorists, and they shoot him, and then he has like American
Spoiler, I guess.
Yeah, and he has like American signatures on him, so that when the Russian authorities find him, they think, holy shit, this was an American terrorist attack. Like, these were Americans who did this. It was like a false flag operation because the guy literally wanted to start World War III. That's the plot of Modern Warfare 2. And yeah, it's funny that you brought that up. Jesus.
I know, because that's the thing. Nothing in at least recent memory has come close to anything like that. That shit was like newsworthy, and like this was already like
2009.
2009. So already, like, the Iraq War was still kind of going on and everything, and just things around that time, like at least coming from my like whatever my brain or whatever I was doing like in 2009. Like, me playing that level, especially, as like a child, I like was so confused. I didn't know what to feel. And, because, everyone thinks like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been playing a rated M game as a child. Shut the fuck up. Nobody ever like followed that stupid ass rating. Everyone who was like anybody was playing COD, even if they were like 12 years old. And they're probably kicking your ass in the lobby anyways. So,
in their defense, though, like for that mission, I mean, they do rate the games the way they do for a reason. Like, that one specifically.
That's a whole nother level, though. No pun intended. That's like the whole airport like level to this day. Like, I still think about it in the sense that like the way it made me feel, though, like not in like, okay, I don't know how to feel about this, like, I don't want to shoot them, like, it's just more so like I did not like the way I felt afterwards. Like, I was so like just like, I just want to finish this fucking level, because like I just hated how uncomfortable I felt the whole time.
Which I guess is what they were going for.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
Because you're also like, I guess you're supposed to be like, it's like a simulator. You're playing as like a deep cover American operative who's so deep cover to the point where he literally is opening fire into a crowd of innocent people to maintain his fucking cover. Like, that's how edgy they were trying to go with it. I remember he like gets covered like head to toe in like Spetsnaz tattoos. And shit all over, like really trying to make him look like one of the bad guys. I was like, Jesus, this is some deep shit. And I guess they wanted like the player to feel that way too, because like you're supposed to do it, right? Yeah. But then when you watch like gameplay footage, you actually don't have to shoot them. Like the AI like does it themselves. You don't have to. You're just supposed to. Is the thing. So yeah, I didn't even think about No Russian. Fuck, how did I forget that?
That's crazy. Part of history, bro.
It's definitely a piece of gaming history. Look up No Russian Modern Warfare 2 if you want to know what we're talking about, and realize that shit came out in 2009, and think about how controversial that shit really was.
Yeah.
And I guess speaking of things that came out in 2009, I guess we could sort of end it off with this. My favorite thing.
Oh, right.
Yes. My favorite thing. May I, Dennis?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You have the floor, Senator.
Only reason I want to bring it up is because it has to do with like story details and stuff, and plus my segue was that was a good one. My segues have been on point today. I was like, yo, speaking of dicks, and then we started talking about Johnny Cage. We got into the Johnny Cage thing. I'm like, yo, speaking of shit that came out in 2009, I had my other topic lined up for that. My fucking segues are broken, dude. If there is any skill in this world that I have, and that you have developed fucking phenomenally since you became a podcast host, it's our fucking segues.
You gotta be nerfed, bro.
Yeah. Call us fucking mall cops, because we're riding around on segways.
I hated that joke. Go ahead. Say your piece.
You know what I didn't hate? Paul Blart, mall cop. They should put him in Mortal Kombat.
It's my favorite anime.
They should put him in Mortal Kombat, dude.
He just hits you with a segue.
Even though I don't think he kills any of the fucking bad guys in the movie, he just takes them all down, like Kevin James style.
Yeah.
Kevin James style.
Just non-violence, like as a mall cop.
Well, no, he beats the shit out of them with like hockey sticks and shit, but like he doesn't kill them.
He doesn't kill them. That's what I'm saying. Like things. Oh, I am violent to an extent.
Yeah.
Not violent to kill. I'll violently beat you, not kill you though. I'm like, oh, I mean, hey, like the guy's got morals. What do you want to know?
Morals, and he's also a mall cop who definitely has never killed anyone. So he probably
like he's got a code he lives by. Like, and no deaths. I won't beat you within an inch of your life, but I won't kill you.
Dude, Paul Blart is literally the comedy version of Die Hard when you think about it.
Fuck.
It's the same. It follows the same monomyth, the same plot points and shit. And it even has that scene at the end where the guy who's never shot anybody before is the one who saves the day and shoots the bad guy when he's about to take Paul Blart down, just like at the end of Die Hard. Anyway, okay, Paul Blart fucking that's not what I. My favorite show. This is the show that literally inspired me to become a writer. I'm not even kidding. It's the character dynamics are what I fell in love with. The dialogue, the way it utilizes dialogue and gets away with so much of it, Tarantino style, is Archer. Archer is ending, finally. They just announced the next season's going to be the last one. And it's bittersweet because it is my favorite show. But holy fuck, I'm actually really happy because it got stale. It really did. The writing got stale. It jumped the shark a long time ago, in my opinion. And though I wouldn't just go off about my favorite show, if Dennis has never seen it or blah blah blah, or if you guys haven't seen it, but if I didn't feel like I had anything interesting to say about it. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Because Archer, as far as writing goes, Archer is very, very unique. Not just in the way that the dialogue segues into itself. They could be talking about fuck, I don't have a what's a good example of it, if that makes any sense. They could be talking about one thing and then before the character ends their sentence, the character in the next scene will continue that sentence but in a totally different context, and that's how they keep the narrative going, if that makes any sense. And the show does that flawlessly, which I think is difficult and also very cool because you have to think of relevant ways to do it. Reason I'm bringing this up though is because Archer is finally ending, right? The show was peak for so long, the first 7 seasons. Some would argue, not most people would argue, the first 10. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, I guess, spoilers for Archer, right? And I want to know what you think about this, because I want to know if you've watched any shows that have done anything similar. Because after the 7th season of Archer, right? The show did something incredibly bold, which is interesting, because, the show was written by one dude, the show's creator for so long, if I'm not mistaken. The show did something ridiculously bold, right? Season 7 ends with Archer getting gut shot, and he's lying in a pool. Presumably dead. You think he's dead. He's just lying in a pool, eyes open. He got gut shot. And what happens is he doesn't die, right? The next season opens, he's in a hospital bed or whatever, and he's there, he's alive, he's in a coma, right? And the show, Archer, for the next 3 seasons, not episodes, seasons of the entire show are set entirely in his head.
So it's just him in the hospital bed just kind of imagining all this shit.
It's literally a dreamland, basically. He's in a coma.
Oh, he's in a coma. Okay.
No, they don't just fuck they have a camera pointed at him fucking the Truman Show.
Yeah, and then it fades to his imagination or whatever he's thinking about or whatever.
Yeah. It opens with him in a hospital bed. It's been a couple of months. Literally the next 3 seasons are set entirely in his head. He's in a coma and he's dreaming. Not episodes. Where it's just I guess 3 episodes, seasons. Maybe he'll wake up. 3 fucking years they did that shit.
Was it well received by the fans?
Nope.
Did they ever say why they did it?
They just wanted to take the show in a different direction. Adam Reed, right, the show's creator and writer, was at that point, he was kind of just slowly becoming creatively done with Archer, because after season 10, he leaves the show. And that's where I feel the show started to really jump the shark, in my opinion, because new writers took it over and it just wasn't as good.
Yeah.
But literally the next 3 seasons of the show were set entirely in his head because he was just kind of creatively done with it. He wanted to take the show in a different direction, and no, they were not received well at first. Later on, some fans, myself included, actually appreciated what they were afterwards, right? Because season 8, for example, right? It's pretty interesting. Season 7, the gang, they're all private eyes, right? And they're working on a movie set for a 1940s noir movie. And so the next season is actually 1940s noir, because that's what his world was like before he fell into a coma. So he's dreaming he's in the 40s again and he's a private eye. That's what season 8 is, right? And I don't know, because like you go back on it and it's kind of interesting, right? Because like every character is like the way that they are based on how he perceived them in his actual like world, which is interesting because like when you dream in real life, that's kind of what you do and you don't realize it. Like take Cyril, for instance. He doesn't like Cyril. He's insecure about Cyril. He kind of picks on him because he thinks he's a nerd, right? So in his dream, he's like Cyril is like the crooked cop, basically, because that's how he like perceives him as. And then there's like the crazy girl, Cheryl or whatever, right? Who's like batshit crazy in real life, an arsonist, like blows shit up, like does crazy shit. So in that season, she's like the femme fatale, who's like the crazy, like hypersexual, manic pixie dream girl, but also is a sociopath and burns shit down, right? So it's interesting. The reason I'm saying this is because the way you perceive them when we were first watching them is like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? Like none
in
of
comparison to how we saw them, at least initially from like the earlier seasons to now this.
Because none of it is canon. It's all completely inconsequential. Why am I watching this? Like, why am I supposed to care? It's like sort of like a weird reset for like something that's not even happening, right? But then looking back on it after he wakes up, because 3 seasons later he wakes up and they go back to the real world, probably because of how poorly those seasons were received, is because, fuck, I lost my train of thought for a second.
Oh, it's okay.
Ah, shit. That's unfortunate. But yeah, it was just something incredibly bold that the show did, right? And looking back on those seasons, I appreciate them now for what they were, like, because they ended. Because, like, knowing that that wasn't what the show was going to be for, like, the rest of its run, basically. But I just wanted to bring that up because I want to know, what are your thoughts on that? Like, because that is a fucking bold fucking thing for a show to do. We're going to put our main fucking character
in a coma.
In a fucking coma. And then we don't even know how long we're going to do this. But for the next 3 years, all this shit, not even canon. It's completely inconsequential.
Yeah.
Like,
at least as far as the overarching... Was there an overarching plot by the time he got into the coma?
Well, some of it was, right? Because, like, season 8 is about him trying to find his partner's killer. Because in real life, his partner is, like, his butler, like, his valet. And his valet died because his voice actor in real life died.
Okay.
So they kill off the character... And the whole thing is that's supposed to be, even though Archer's in a coma, like, he knows that he died. So in his dream, he's trying to find his killer, basically. Like, it's, like, tasteful things like that as a way to, like, give thanks to the voice actor as well, right? And then season 10 is, at the end of season 10 is when he wakes up. And it's all different depending on the seasons, right? Like, season 9 was, like, it was sort of like an Indiana Jones style thing where it's set, like, even earlier, like, on the, like, before the rise of the Nazis. Like, they're on, like, an island, they run a hotel, and everybody's chasing, like, the same, like, gold MacGuffin, like, versus Nazis and shit like that, like Indiana Jones. And then season 10 was, like, a space theme. It was called Archer 1999, which it's set in the year 1999, which I thought was interesting because Archer's, like, art style is very, like, old-timey, like, spy thing, like, very 60s-esque. And it's like, oh, this is what people in the 60s thought the year 1999 was going to be like, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, there's merit to the seasons, but just nobody gave a shit about, like, the artistic value of them or anything because we were just like, is he dead? Like, is he going to wake up? Like, this isn't what we fucking paid to watch. So I just want to know what you thought of that. Have you watched any shows that, like, have done something that crazy or that bold? Like, gone off on, like, a side character for, like, a whole season or some shit? Like, in the middle of a storyline?
The only kind of comparison that I could think of is kind of like how, at least in a lot of animes, there's a thing called filler. And for a lot of times, like, since animes are always, like, kind of all dependent on, like, their source material, the manga, and if the creator hasn't, like, basically made enough, let's say, material for the now the showrunners to kind of, like, go off of. It's the same sort of, like, kind of back and forth that happened with Game of Thrones. Like, at least in Game of Thrones case, George literally just was not finished with the other novel. So at that point, the show kind of just said, fuck it, we're going to go into a completely new direction because we got no source material left to go off of at all. And everyone knows how that panned out. Now, it's not in the same vein as Archer at all, because at least in the respect that for Archer's case, like, this was all from their heads. Like, this was all stuff that they thought of. Like, this wasn't based off of anything. This was all out of their own, like, fucking brain. At least in the Game of Thrones case, like, that was off of someone else's work that they decided to adapt, you know, to onto a show. But it's like a lot of times when some people, when they get to that little junction on the highway where, it's like that meme where the guy's like literally steering like into like just drifting into the fucking exit. And like it's usually like the worst choice that, of the two.
Yeah.
Now going back to at least anime and fillers, and this is what I like to think that whole seasons of Archer was. It was just fucking filler. Yeah. It was just like, yeah, this is cool, I guess. But like you said, this is not what we're here for. We've been sitting here for 3 years watching this shit. And now that it's finally over and he's finally waking up, like, that's the thing. Like, you didn't have to make it like this, in my opinion. Like, and I know people may say like that's like a bit of a weird argument, but hear me out. Because, you did this for 3 years. For 3 seasons.
And they
met in the writing room.
They teased it too.
You met in the writing room 3 motherfucking times. And after the first time, you decided, let's do this for 2 more seasons. And for me, and it's like, there's like times when obviously like we've seen the protagonist, like he's been like injured or hurt or even beaten. And he needs to recover before he could come back for the fight. I'm talking in like classical sort of writing, sort of like in a writing sense. Like, and I know like at least for Archer's case and like the whole for the 3 seasons where he's just in a coma and he's just kind of like his imagination's just going nuts and like he's just imagining like all these like, kind of scenarios and like, it's a whole season's worth of like shit that they, that's the direction that they decided to go. Like filler for me, it's like sometimes filler can be good. Sometimes it can be good. Like sometimes it's actually like very like, oh, I didn't know I needed this, but this is actually pretty fucking fire. Like, and it's very rare though that it happens where filler is actually like well received by the general audience. And the thing is, at least for an anime's case, they can't afford to make a whole season's worth of filler. It's like the filler's there for maybe at least like 4 to 8 episodes, maybe 10. Because like, how some animes literally run for like fucking hundreds of episodes and they're not even run by seasons either. Like this is a fucking like constantly like going thing. There's no seasons attached to it at all.
Yeah, it's impossible to watch One Piece now.
Yeah. And at least in the case of Archer, right? Like obviously like the way Western showrunners kind of break up the shows, it's all based off like the seasons.
Yeah.
And it's also because like the fact that a season is very digestible. I could binge a season and like, okay, like now after that, like everyone's going to be talking about it. Netflix, I guess, sort of kind of started it, but like, in the sense, like binging, I mean.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, like, again, this is coming from a guy that like, I'm just only talking about it from like a sort of audience perspective and like kind of how I would see it if I was like a fan. And I personally, for me, I would be mad that I had to basically watch filler for 3 seasons. And the thing is that unless they somehow manage to tie in those 3 seasons to this last or to this next one and somehow like actually not invalidate like the last 3, if they could somehow do that, then they're fucking geniuses.
Yeah.
Because like if they somehow can do that, props to them, because it's like, wow, you like literally just turned around my whole opinion about those last 3 seasons, because it's like it wasn't just for nothing. We didn't just spend hundreds of hours watching this for nothing. Like it actually meant something.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Because Archer did do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know what they were going to do, because again, the guy who wrote all those seasons, the first 10 seasons of the show, Adam Reed, the show's creator, left the show after that.
Yeah.
He literally left the show after he woke Archer up and then handed the reins over. I think they said in an interview at one point that he was actually very much considering killing him off, but he just didn't want to do that like to the fans. Like they realized they love him just as much. So he handed Archer to some other writers and shit like that. And they did an okay job with it. It wasn't exactly the same, but like it was good enough those seasons, even though like it was a little bit stale or whatever. The reason I'm saying it is because they tied it all in, because in the world of the story, Archer was in a coma for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so, like, the next seasons are about, like, him just adjusting back to the real world. Like, Lana, his love interest, got married while he was, like, in a coma. While he was in a coma and shit, and they already have a kid together. Cyril, who he hated, became the top agent while he was gone, and he got fucking shredded and shit. all this stuff, right? And they became spies again when they weren't spies, like, for years. At that point. So they do and he's like walking with a cane and shit because he has like fucking atrophy because like, he was
got
asleep.
a limp
now. He basically had a limp now, so he gets like a super cane. And so it does tie it in a little that way, so it's not like they completely forget about it. But as far as the content of the seasons, they just constantly teased it as well. Like, I remember Krieger, like the scientist character, wants to like study his brain and shit. And he's like, so tell me about your coma. And he's like, oh, it was like I was living in several different realities. It's like the first one, I was a private eye in the 1940s, and done. And then he just like stops analyzing him just to fucking tease to the audience. Yeah, all that shit, none of it mattered. Straight up, like they teased. And I remember at the beginning of season 9, there's literally, you see him sleeping and you're like, oh shit. It's like, are they waking him up? And there's a voiceover from Pam, right? It's like, what does Pam say at the beginning of the season? It's like, sometimes I wonder what he's dreaming about. But then I remember I don't give a shit. And then like she blows a whistle and wakes him up. And then like, no, it's like another dream world again. It's like, fuck! It's like they almost knew we didn't like it. Yeah. It was crazy. And there's a lot more people, funny enough, who appreciate those seasons now for what they were, knowing that the show didn't go on like that. Everybody hated them when they watched it. I think the audience got like cut in half straight up when they started doing those seasons.
Like people's gut reactions were like, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah, every episode is like, what does this have to do with the real world? Like, are they going to wake him up? Like, is he dead? What's going on? Not realizing we weren't supposed to care about that at the time. And neither did the fucking writers. Like, he didn't realize we weren't supposed to care about that either. Now that we know the story continues and he wakes up, there's a lot more people who appreciate those seasons as their own, like, individual filler stories. I do. Like, season 8, I fucking hated it when I first watched it. I felt the ending was, like, very disappointing. I like the whole story felt like it didn't matter. It was nice, tasteful, the Woodhouse, whatever. But then, like, you know, later on down the line, when you know what happens later and you watch it as its own thing, you appreciate it. So that's why I just wanted to get your take on that before we wrap up here.
Oh, yeah. And I'll just say one last thing too. It's like there's a lot of times where people may watch something and their gut reaction, at least at that moment, it's like, fuck this shit. Like, you know, I hate this. Like, it's terrible. Like, whoever the creator was should go die in a hole somewhere. Like, I hate this. You ruined Star Wars. Like, you know, everyone's heard the same shit. And, like, at least even for the case of Star Wars, everyone watched the prequels. And if you watched the prequels when you were at least, like, a young lad, obviously, like, you know, when I was a kid and I watched it, I was like, I thought it was great. Lightsabers go phew and whatever. Like, but it's like, now as I'm older and I watch it, like, I understand, like, obviously it had its problems. But it's just like, again, like, as David said, you kind of do learn to appreciate at least the good that it does have. Because, granted, at least a lot of stuff we watched initially arguably may have been shit. Like, you know, there's probably no way to mince words about it. But it's like, obviously, the older you get and even the more wiser you get, at the very least, you kind of do learn to appreciate it for what it is. Because some things also are just unforgivably bad. Just like the Avatar The Last Airbender live action that everyone knows about. Or even Dragon Ball Evolution, which everyone fucking knows about. Yeah. And nobody ever says, oh yeah, man, I revisited Dragon Ball Evolution. It's actually not that bad. No one fucking says that, period. Yeah.
And the coma seasons of Archer, which is what they're referred to now, like we refer to them as the coma years or like the coma seasons.
The coma era.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of different eras of Archer, like season 5.
It's 3 years though. 3 seasons. Like,
dude, season 5 of Archer, literally, like, it turned out the entire time that they were operating with absolutely no express consent from the United States government as a spy agency. And so they get, like, fucking shut down, right? And so they become coke dealers for a year. That's season, and it's one of the best fucking seasons of the show.
That sounds like fucking great, actually.
It's one of the best fucking seasons of the show, too. Yeah. So it's like Archer has been all over the place. And looking back on the coma seasons, it's like they were still well written. That's the thing.
At the very least.
You can't remember Dragon Ball Evolution as that. You know, it's not like, oh, this is a different thing, but at least it was well done for what it is. No, it was shit all around. The Coma seasons, you could be like, they're at least well written and they were good stories.
Yeah.
Some better than others. Like
there's
I didn't like
you-
season 9 personally. I thought season 9 was pretty boring.
Like
but-
there's some things you can appreciate with it. That's the thing. Like
exactly.
some things are just they're just unforgivably
But at
bad.
the moment, we just didn't because it wasn't what they wanted. It's like such an interesting mentality shift. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. And I'm bringing all that up because Archer is finally ending as it's well past time. Jessica Walter passed away a couple of years ago. She was one of the main... Yeah, she passed away a couple of years ago. She was one of the main characters of the show. Like, one of the most important characters easily, so... That and, like, you know, again, the writing's gotten stale. Not as many people are watching it.
It's
like,
time to end it.
The showrunner left the show. Like, they're tastefully ending it, which I'm very happy to see that they're doing before it becomes a fucking Family Guy. So,
Or Simpsons.
Or Simpsons, yeah. Which thank God it's not. I'm happy that my favorite fucking show ever, the show that inspired me to become a writer, that realized me being a showrunner for my own show is my dream job, is gonna die with dignity. I'm very, very happy that that's happening. It's gonna fucking die with dignity, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So God bless you, Archer. You're the fucking GOAT. If you've never watched that show, Dennis, I think you would love it.
I actually have watched a couple episodes from at least the first season, and I don't know, for me, at least with a lot of shows, I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Like, a lot of times, like, I was actually busting out laughing. But I almost dropped it the same way that I dropped Rick and Morty when I first watched a couple episodes. Not that I'm saying that both of them are, like, the same kind of show, but it's just, like, the way that at least I watch shows, it's, like, it's a fucking commitment, first off, right? And it's, like, I'm already, like, watching tons of shit, even past, like, Archer and even Rick and Morty. I'm watching other stuff, too. And now, at least, kind of the way, like, what's on my, like, kind of list of things to watch now, it's like watching seasons after seasons of shows is just like, I have to set a whole day for that. Like, just to, like, get through it. And, like, you know, obviously I will enjoy it, but it's just like, the very fact is that, like, you know, with work and all, like, I don't have that much time to, like, just to watch it all. Like, I would love to. Like, if I was younger, I would have all the time in the world, but now it's just so much more difficult.
I feel that. For what it's worth, though, the show only gets better. Like, it also, not even just as a comedy show, like, the story, like, the narrative is very interesting, because it's, like, you know, sort of like a Cold War era fucking, like, spy shit. And the show also visually only gets better, too. Like, you watch season 1, and the animation is honestly very choppy in, like, the first 2 seasons. Like, the show visually only gets better and better and better and better as it goes on.
Which we love to see. Which we love to see.
But that's enough of ramblings right now. We're done. Double D Pod, Twitter. The Double D Experience 21, Instagram. Wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to Cooped Up, I guess. Yeah.
It's all right.
It's all right.
It's okay.
I mean, it's better now that I'm fucking running. Now
Oh!
that I'm running the show.
Oh!
No, I'm fucking around. I'm a kidding. Though I granted the episode I had to edit was like him interviewing this e-girl like for 2.5 hours about the Pokemon anime.
She even like that much of a cute e-girl?
I saw her. She was very attractive. What I hated though is that she had like a fucking like she was on mobile, and so her phone was like this, and so the gain was peaking so high. So I had to do some work to make that shit sound good. But your boy finds a way.
Of course.
Yeah, and also we're also on YouTube and shit. YouTube.com/Nintoonist. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell me what videos I should be making instead of a podcast. All that good noise. We love you all. Mwah. And you got a second kiss because you're so sexy. Mwah. Sexy audience, especially you, Loopy. Thank you for that very nice comment you left us.
Ooh,
I forgot to show it to Dennis before we started this.
Fuck.
I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up right now.
Okay.
Here. We're gonna read Loopy's comment.
And also, I'm gonna go finish Breath of the Wild because I want to finish. I want to actually play Tears of the Kingdom. So that's what I'm gonna be doing.
This podcast is actually so. This is from our recent episode. Actually, they wrote this. This podcast is actually so damn good. It's funny, the bits are great, and you can really feel the friendship between boys being boys. I've got a lot of episodes to catch up on, for sure. I feel like articles by Kotaku are always so laughable. Every single one of them screams copy pasta material. I thank God every day that I'm not gay is probably the most iconic things I've heard David say since I've been listening along.
Wait, what was? Can you repeat that part?
I thank God every day that I'm not gay is probably the most iconic things that I've heard David say since I've been listening along. Luffy, you're the reason. You're it. You're them. I don't know your gender. I don't know. You're that person. You're that guy, that girl, that.
I don't know if you're a guy, gal, or binary or non-binary pal. So but whatever you are, like it don't matter. But like basically, you're the kind of guy that like we basically actually you're the reason why we even do this shit to begin with.
Yeah.
Like just to hear those words and like all of it actually does mean a lot. And at the very least, the least we can say is like, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because granted, I didn't watch the last episode, or like I didn't go back to it, but again, thank you for those kind words very much.
And the more we can say is we want even more to be thankful for. So, Loopy, tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Like seriously, share them if you want more people to listen to our podcast, if you like it, or you want other people to listen to it, or if you don't give a fuck about other people listening to it and you just want us all for yourself, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But if you don't, but like we
ain't gonna tell you what to do.
You want our podcast to get better? Just fucking tell your friends. Word of mouth is so important. So share that shit around.
Yeah.
Yeah. We love you all. Thank you, Loopy, and everyone who listens. And I'm getting a little loopy right now because I'm hungry. So it's time to go.
I'm gonna go play Zelda.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Scat.
Scat. Ew.
Scat.